Turretinfan, does the passage in Galatians 2 where Peter is rebuked, Peter is rebuked by Paul, fulfill the criteria that would contradict papal infallibility as set down by Vatican I?
My understanding of the teaching on papal infallibility is that it has to do with the Bishop of Rome specifically attempting to bind the whole church. And it's hard to see how that could be the case with Peter, in the sense I don't see anything there to tell me that he was trying to bind the whole church and just the people at Antioch.
Perfect. Okay, that's a perfect answer. Okay, Turretinfan, when Jerome says, whoever does not gather with you, in reference to Pope Damasus, scatters, that is, whoever does not belong to Christ belongs to Antichrist. Was he comparing being in union with a shepherd Damasus as tantamount to belonging to Christ?
Well,
I'll read it again if you want.
Again, I kind of would like to see the context of what you're asking here.
Okay. Okay, I guess if you're not aware of the verse, it's pretty pointless because it would take a while for you to, to read it and to get the context. It's a cross-examine period, but I guess I'll move on. Turretinfan, I've heard Mr. White, many times, but as recently as one of his latest debates against Robert St. Janus, claim that the donation of Constantine, among other false documents, are the basis of the establishment of the papacy. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes. Denny, in the book Papalism, Denny makes an excellent presentation on the pseudo-Isidorian decretals and other, the donation of Constantine and other things that led to the historical prominence of Rome, especially the prominence in the West.
Okay, in reference specifically to the establishing of the papacy, though, my question is not in reference to anything other than the establishing of the papacy. You do believe that these documents are the basis of that, am I correct?
Well, maybe I should ask you to define what you mean by establishment of the papacy.
I guess I mean in the sense of the office of the papacy. That's what I mean. The office itself of the papacy. Do you believe that these documents, the donation and other documents, are the basis of, the establishing of the office of the papacy?
No, I think what I would agree is with what Dr. White was saying, which is that it relates to the power of the papacy.
Okay, not the office, though. Am I correct?
Well, if you can separate the office from the power, then I guess so. But I'll leave that up to you, whether that's possible to separate.
Oh, well, I definitely do, because we're not definitely going into the topic of papal primacy. I'm just talking about the office itself. But I guess since you cleared that up, I'll move on to another question. I guess my question is a really simple one. Do any church councils, or even any church fathers for that matter, hearken to these false documents in reference to papal primacy?
I'm trying to recall which medieval theologians would refer to those documents. Obviously, Aquinas was known for referring to many. Well,
but I'm not talking about medieval theologians. I'm referencing particularly any church council or any church father. Of course, Aquinas would not be considered an early church father.
Well, I'm trying to recall off the top of my head which councils would apply in that type of situation. Of course, the early councils wouldn't have dealt with that, like the Council of Nicaea wouldn't have dealt with it because those forgeries hadn't been made yet. But
what about any council after Nicaea? Any of the councils
that's
after
what I'm trying to think, whether or not whether I can recall any that specifically referred to those documents. Off the top of my head, I cannot recall any.
What about any church father? What about even Aquinas? Do you think Aquinas used these documents in support of the papacy? Any of these false decrees?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to recall.
Yeah, if you could quote that for us.
It might be. I'm not sure I can quote it off the top of my head, but I'm trying to recall in the area.
Do you know exactly where? Maybe if you can just point out where in any of his works that he actually refers to these documents in reference to using them to establish anything in regards to the papacy.
Well, the place I would be, the place I'm sort of turning to as we speak is his most famous work, the Summa Theologica. And it would be in, I guess, in the, I want to say, it's a good question, which section it specifically deals with the papacy there.
Well, I guess perhaps we could get into that maybe in the next cross-examination because the time is running up. But maybe I guess in a break or something that we take, maybe you can look that up and bring that forth. But since I have about 8 seconds left, I'll go ahead and I'll conclude my cross-examination period now.